Welcome to the podcast, Hopeful Horizons, the bridge where hope and healing meet. Our mission is to create the environment and resources to get people across the bridge from the post-COVID experience to a future filled with hope. Please welcome our host, Holly Porter, founder of Adventure Bucket Wish Foundation.
Hey everyone, this is Holly Porter. Again, I'm your host. I don't know if you've listened to any of our episodes before, but I'm happy to join you today and just give you some updates on some different things with our nonprofit. So Adventure Bucket Wish Foundation, you can go listen to the full story if you want back into our first and our second episode where my friend Melanie Binger interviews me and we talk about how it started and go from there. So the gist of it and the short version is that it came about when I was in a coma, the idea anyway, and I was in the hospital with COVID for 70 days. I was intubated 2 times. I had a trach, I got sepsis, a couple other life-threatening infections as well. And honestly, I am one of those that walked out of there that should never be telling my story because people that went through what I didn't come out of the hospital, they died. And I know that I don't want to waste not one single day or moment in my life that I was saved for a reason. And I was told specifically some things. I've been a guest on a whole bunch of podcasts about out of body experiences, near death experience, and a spiritual transformational experience that I've had while in my coma. Probably the first 4 weeks of my 70 stay is when most of that took place. And honestly, I'm still learning things. I'm still growing from that. There's been a lot of ups and downs, not just with my health, but with personal things that have happened. And the message really that I came back with was love them where they're at. And that message is so profound because to be honest with you, I didn't get that message until I had, 2 years later. It's been about 3 now since I went in the hospital. And that message didn't come to me until I had a hypnosis session, specifically on my near death experience, wanting to remember some things that I didn't. I knew they were there, and that was the best thing I did for my recovery. And I had gone through a whole bunch of really hard things, hard challenges the 2 years before with family, grandkids. We had attorneys involved and DCFS involved and heartbreaking things. And I remember praying so many of those days, God, why did you save me to put me through this hell, so to speak? This is worse than anything I had ever been through. And I've been through raising 8 children, combining families, of 3 other divorces, not that I'm bragging. However, I have a great husband now of 22 years. And honestly, it was like, why? Why did I survive? I don't want to live through this. And if I would have remembered that message, love them where they're at, it would have shifted a lot in my life, that perspective and that time, to know that it takes the judgment away. If we love people where they are, we can't control what other people do. We can control how we react to things and how we are within ourselves and how we react to different situations. And it was the hardest lesson I had ever learned and gone through at the moment. I look back now, we're only, a year and a half later past that situation. And I know that I needed to go through that to learn some lessons that are going to help me with my future endeavors and other things that I was told, heavenly told, I guess, so to speak, to do through my near death experience and my out of body and my spiritual transformational. So I didn't know there were 3 different things like that. And I know this is a little bit different of an episode than what we usually do. I usually interview stories from long COVID and caretakers and medical and holistic professionals. That's usually who we have as our guests. But I feel inspired today to just come on and pour my heart out and share the hope that we need to have for those suffering. And if you are a caretaker, bless your soul, first of all. Second of all, you have a big responsibility because it's not always easy, and it's not easy to understand what a person with long COVID is going through. There are so many more diagnoses. For instance, I know you've heard me, if you've listened to other episodes, say there's over 100 million now that are clinically, like on paper, diagnosed with long COVID. So there's a lot more that aren't diagnosed. And when I started the nonprofit in 2022, we're now into the August of 2024 when I'm recording this. So it's been almost 2.5 years since we got our nonprofit together. We started out with 65 million were the numbers of documented cases. Now we're over 100 million. There's over 200 symptoms that are linked to long COVID. So if you think about it, that's like everything, every organ was affected. It is a brain disease. So there's so many different combinations with 200 symptoms that are linked that people can have. I've yet to find one person with long COVID have the same ailments bothering them and symptoms bothering them, because you just throw in all those combinations and it's endless. I should do the math and check that out. I don't know what that could be like, but they're not the same. And so the treatment obviously is not going to be the same. And there's so much gaslighting being done in the medical field to those with long COVID. Autoimmunes are just blowing up everywhere. We hear about it all the time. And with long COVID, it seems to create a lot of autoimmune. And a lot of times, if you have one autoimmune, you usually have more than one. So it's unfortunate, yes, but there is hope. I'm finding more and more we're 4.5 years into when we started this whole nonsense in 2020. The whole world suffered. We can't find anyone, and I challenge you, that didn't have some kind of a sacrifice or went through some kind of a challenge, financially, physically, mentally, spiritually, when COVID came out. That was something that the whole world suffered from at the same time. So my thoughts to you are today is be patient with those that are suffering. If you're a caretaker, if you're not the right person for them, not the caretaker, excuse me, the medical professionals or holistic professionals for that matter, if you don't want to be in this position and you don't truly want to help that person, let them go to somebody who will. Help them find somebody who will, because they're not crazy. Um, so in my journey, I would say my experience was fall of 2021, my 70-day hospital stay. And I walked in on no drugs and I walked out on a dozen. And I'm drug free now, but by choice. And I chose to not have those side effects. For me, that was better. I felt like they weren't worth the trade-off. And so I have chose a natural way to get better. I'm probably about 85% now. And I will say in my journey, it's been long. When people say, "What did you do to get better?" People that saw what I went through, they're like, "Wow, this is amazing." But first of all, it's a mindset. And if I wouldn't have had the mindset that I do have and the personal development behind me before, it's never too late to learn. And if you're suffering from those crazy thoughts going through your head that aren't serving you, that aren't getting you better, that aren't healing you, mind, body, and soul, I would challenge you to search for that. Because I had a doctor one time tell me, "Well, at least you're doing something about this." And it's when I was pretty bad, pretty recent out of the hospital. I was still on oxygen. And I said, "Well," it wasn't even like a question. I was like, "Well, yeah, what else am I going to do?" And she said, "Sit home on oxygen waiting to die." And I'm like, I mean, that wasn't even an option for me. And so I'm not better than anyone else. I might think a little bit differently than most. And I struggle with the same challenges everybody does. When you're in the hospital that long, there's PTSD, there's depression, there's anxiety. all these things I had never experienced before, that I thought I was losing my mind. And literally with the brain fog, I did lose my mind. I had to gain that back. And with my symptoms, I feel like it's a roller coaster. It's those 200 symptoms. I probably have had at least 75 of them off and on. They come, they go, they come, they go. Um, I call it the COVID brain dyslexia, is how I explain it to some people, because, and it's so hard to explain because in your mind, it's like you know what you want to say. My mom had Parkinson's, and I remember she knew what she wanted her body to do, but her brain wasn't telling her body to do it. And that's a little bit similar. It's like you know what you want to say, and everybody forgets words, but you know what you want to say, but it's like wired around. It's like going into all these different compartments, and you have to let go. Oh, there's that letter. Once I get the letter, okay, that's that word I'm looking for. And it's just helping figure it out. In the last 3 months, I started working on my hormones with my newer. I call him a hybrid doctor. He is he is a nurse practitioner, but he does a lot of holistic as well. And he listens to me because I'll do the research and I'll go in there and, hey, this is what I want to do, and he gives me his advice, and then we make a plan. But we started working on my hormones, and it's interesting because COVID throws everything out of whack, and it 10 times lights everything on fire that you possibly might have had dormant or not dormant creating in your body. And I just hadn't, that was just like on my list, but I hadn't done that. And I started doing some bioidentical hormones, and I'd never done anything like that. But he's like, with COVID, your hormones are shot. I mean, it just runs havoc on them. So it's been about 5 months now, and honestly, I would say I was about 75% better when we started, and I'd say I'm 85% now because of some of my diagnoses that I do have that are whatever you want to call them. I don't want to be attached to them, but they're terminal, so to speak. I'm going to live every day as if it's my last. I want to be helpful. I want to get these goals done that I want to accomplish, that I know I'm supposed to be doing. There's been a lot of hiccups along the way the past 3 years, as I shared even personally, but just business and learning. And I've had 11 startup companies, and I was told to start this nonprofit. And I was also told not to partner with a company that had $1 billion backer on the software company that was just in concept when I got sick. So within 3 months out of the hospital, still really sick on oxygen, I incorporated these two companies. One's a for-profit, one's a nonprofit. And if you've ever started a business, it's not an instant money-making thing, right? The nonprofit I didn't set up to make an income. That was what this podcast is about. It's called Adventure Bucket Wish Foundation, and it's to serve the long COVID community. That's had its own challenges because people are sick, and sometimes they don't want to tell their story. Like, that's what people want to listen to, is these stories. There's so many stories of sickness and challenges that people are having, not being able to ever work again, being on disability. But I'm finding people are getting better too, and those stories are hopeful. My story, to know I was as sick as I was to where I am, I mean, that's hope. That shows there is hope out there. There's people that have long COVID that never really had a battle with COVID. They got COVID, they tested positive, maybe had a little sniffle or a cough or a headache, but they really didn't get sick. And now they have long COVID and have all these challenges. And that's what it's traced back to, is when they got the virus. So a lot of people just don't understand. Doctors really don't understand. This is still a new disease, and we all need to just give us some grace, be patient with those, ask people that, how are you doing? I mean, it melts my heart here 3 years later. I just went to a conference and someone just said, I just wondered really, like, how are you doing? And that made my heart so happy to know that, like, you're not forgotten. I remember how sick you were. And I'm just curious, are you putting on a show or are you really better? And I don't believe in fake it till you make it. I feel like progress needs to just be putting one foot forward. You get a setback, you again put one foot forward. Setbacks are going to happen, but so do comebacks. And I want to be a comeback story. I don't want to be a setback and back again and back again. I just want to keep moving forward. I haven't really shared, but I have a book coming out. I'm hoping it'll be ready by the end of the year. It's been the longest process that I have ever done on any of my books, but it's the one I want to be the most proud of. And our working title, which I think now I'll say because I just stick with it, it's called Retreat Forward: My Journey from NDE to CEO. And I'm really excited to get that out. I want it to be something that gives people hope, but also shares that you can do hard things. And there's always the morning to start over. And if you had a bad day today, just remember tomorrow when you wake up, that's a new day. It's a brand new clean slate to change whatever you want and decide whatever you want. And better's better, I say. If you just are getting baby steps, there's so many times when I'm just not feeling better, or that fatigue was just up and down all the time. Like I couldn't make plans because I didn't know if I was going to feel good enough to do that, right? Or to go out of town or whatever it is. And now I just don't let that hold me back. I do take precautions. I do take lots of supplements, and I take extra ones when I travel because I want to make sure my immune's up, and I want to make sure that my lungs are staying healthy and I have antivirals going in my body. So I do take precautions. I don't want to be dumb, but I want to make sure that uh, that people understand that you choose to not be around people. That's also a choice. And if you live in that fear of, well, if I'm around people, I'll get sick, you're playing that back in your head. I'll get sick. I'll get sick. And I think it's just like, I'm getting better all the time. Better's always better. The setback is going to be a comeback. It's that reframe in your mind of just changing that thought process into something positive. We all have bad days, but I want to encourage you to have more good days than bad days, and think of different things you can be grateful for. If you're angry about something, think of someone or something you can do that would maybe serve that person or that situation somehow. Because when you're in service and you're in gratitude, that also shifts your thinking. That also fills your heart with joy and showing that unconditional love. Remember, love them where they're at. And those are just some things that were on my heart that I felt like needed to be part of this show. I hope that if you have a story of long COVID, you'll reach out to us. So adventurebucketwish.
Adventure Bucket Wish Foundation, creating experiences directly from our grantees' bucket lists as our main focus. We foster hope and provide community, resources, and valuable knowledge to those still experiencing the symptoms and effects of the post-COVID condition, PCC. Stay tuned for how you can be involved.
We'd love to have you as a guest, telling your story, sharing your heart, letting us know how your journey's going. And it's okay if it's not a successful story. That's okay. People need to hear there's still a lot of challenges. The whole idea around the podcast is to create awareness and hope and resources so that we can help serve the long COVID community. If you feel inclined and you're listening, you know somebody maybe that passed on from COVID, or you know somebody that has long COVID. If you have the means to donate, we are a 501c3, so it's a tax write-off for you. You can go on the website again, adventurebucketwish.org, and you can pledge a one-time amount, or you can set up on a monthly, small or large donation, whatever you'd like. That will help us serve and bring more awareness to this. It's not going away. trust me, people with long COVID are the first to say they'd love to see it go away and just be gone, and we pretend it never happened. Put the blinders on, right? And that's not going to happen. It's here to stay, and we just need to learn how to deal with it, how to support others. I think it taught us all a lot of lessons. And with that being said, I just ask for your support. And if you would also subscribe to the podcast, that will also help us. I know we don't have a lot of subscribers yet. We just started in January. We are on all platforms. If you're seeing this, you're probably watching it on YouTube, but we're also on Buzzsprout, Spotify, all of them, Apple, all of those places that you watch shows we're located on. So we appreciate the support. I have a great board of directors. We have a great board of advisors, and we have some really cool things in the works partnering with somebody else with a long COVID community, and I'm excited for that. So stay tuned. We'll have that announcement coming soon. And if you're suffering, again, reach out. I'd love to hear your story and have you share that with our audience. If you are a medical or holistic professional and you feel like you have expertise in long COVID, I'd love to hear from you as well. And until then, thanks for listening. I hope that this brought you some thoughts that will help you move your life forward and think of hope and give somebody else joy today. Bye for now.
Our biggest dream and desire is to bring lasting impact to the lives of the millions experiencing long COVID effects and symptoms all across the world. Please join us. You can reach out to us at adventurebucketwish.org.